What's up? This is Richie from the Where We Wild YouTube channel, and today I got a SHIMANO CAIUS 151 HG. Brand new, and just picked one up for 89 bucks, and the thing looks pretty sweet, man. I gotta say, I just needed a budget reel to go on a budget rod that I picked up, and yeah, man, didn't have one of these, so figured I'd check it out, and here she is. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. It's got the body of the SHIMANO CAIUS Bass 1 XT, very similar, very similar, and it's just basically the American version of that. So very cool, this thing. Oversized handle. It's got the SHIMANO Corrado knobs. It's just pretty cool, especially for 89 bucks. So I'm gonna tear it all down, do my usual tune-up, oil, grease, all that type of stuff. And so if you have one of these and you're trying to take yours apart at home, you can follow along and hopefully it'll help you out. Let's get into it. All right, let's get into this. First and foremost here, I guess we will, usually I take the handle off first, so let's do that. Gonna start with a flathead screwdriver. Usually I like to start with the flathead and then move up to the Phillips if need be, but the flathead usually gets a better grip and helps prevent you from stripping out these screws, especially when they're brand new. They got Loctite on them, stuff like that. So we're just gonna go counterclockwise to the left. That broke off pretty darn easy. Yeah, you can see they always got the Loctite on there. You can see that blue color on the screw. I don't know if you can actually on the GoPro, but you see that Loctite in there. Take our little cap off here. Oh, I don't even have my tools out yet. What are you doing? What are you doing, son? What are you gonna need here? Gonna need our bearing tester, a wrench, some tweezers. That should be good for now. Not much cleaning to do on this thing considering it's brand new out of the box. Should be a 10mm, and to loosen it should be clockwise because it's a left-handed reel. So let's give that a go. Nice and gentle. And just bust it loose and then move on to your hand. That way you don't scratch the heck out of it, you know what I'm saying? Little nut there. And as usual, I'm just going to work my way down the mat here in the order of which I found things. All right, so same old story here, man. Got the little pin in there that makes the drag click, and that washer always loves to stick to those handles. There's a lot of grease on there too. So we'll just pull that off. Spring loaded, so just keep your eye on that. As it comes up, keep pressure on it. And do not lose, I say it every time, but do not lose that little spring and pin that's in there, buddy. Tell you that. That would be no fun. All right. Just gonna place that right over there. A little extra grease on this handle. I'm just gonna wipe off real fast. This thing's cool, man. I gotta say, I like this oversized handle. Really cool. Got the spring, got your nut, and we're just gonna loosen this to the right, which is clockwise. Shouldn't be on there very tight. Uh-oh, I may have to sneeze. I may have to sneeze. I feel it coming. All right, so underneath here, oh boy, don't sneeze. Underneath this nut here, as usual, you got a little washer there, and there's a copper colored side and a gray colored side. I don't know if you can see that. Copper, gray. And the copper side on all these reels is usually always facing down. So we're just gonna place it upside down like that, so the copper side is facing up. Underneath we have our basically the spring tension spacer washers, whatever they're called, but they're always in the back-to-back position, like back-to-back parentheses. Oop, dropped it. Doesn't matter though, because you know which way they're going to be sitting. And you just want them to sit back-to-back. And I'll put that on the screen right now for you, just like back-to-back parentheses. So there's a little bit of a gap in between them, and that provides a little spacing going on in your drag star. Oh boy. I'm still fighting that sneeze. Next up, we have our, we'll take the spool out here, and it's basically just this little open and close switch. We're gonna flip it to open. Now, one downside about this reel is it isn't attached here, this door. It'll fall off on you, and you can lose it in the water or whatever, so you just be careful when you're out there. But it just twists clockwise and then just pulls up. You got your first bearing down in there, and then you got your spool. Just gonna shimmy that out. All right, so first spool in there. Now, brand new. Last reel I took apart was the Casitas, and it wasn't brand new. So it's just always a little different when they're brand new. You sometimes have some grease going on here on the bearings, and you want to get those off. I think they load them up on there because they know, their products are going to be in transit or sit on the shelf for a long period of time, and they don't want it drying out. But I've said it a million times, grease slows down your bearings. You just want oil on them. So we're going to pull this thing out of here, clean it off, oil it up. You got the little spring clip in there. We're going to just find where it breaks. You'll just have to look inside, find the area where it breaks, and then just take a screwdriver or something like that and start prying it out of there. You always want to, I may use the tweezers actually because it's a little bit thinner. Just keep your finger over it to prevent it from going completely flying on you, because they will. And there she is. Place that there. We're going to use our little bearing remover tool. I will link it in the description for you. Great little tool to have here. It just kind of hooks into the bearing, and you just get to pull it straight out. Just like that. All right, let's dry this sucker off real fast. I got such a nice comment on one of these videos the other day. It was awesome, man. It was on one of these reel videos, and the guy was so sweet, and he said like that he thought my reel maintenance videos were the best, and he learned so much from them, and that felt so good, dude. I never know if people are enjoying these videos, so if you're out there and you like these videos, definitely let me know in the comments, man, because that gives me the vibe to keep going. It's really cool. I really appreciate it. All right, let's take out our oil here. Lucas Reel Oil, linked in the description as always. I'm gonna just place this bearing on top of this tester here. Nice. Feels good. Little drop. Thing's cranking. Beautiful. Spin it around. One more drop. Oh, two more drops, but they're like half drops. You don't want to go too crazy, but definitely need some in there. I'm going to place that back in. Just take this tester and just pop her on down. And we got our spring clip. We're just going to send that back inside here. Basically, you're just going to be using our fingernail here. It's a little bit of a tight squeeze, but once you get it in there, then you just take a screwdriver and place it all the way in. Make sure the whole thing's seated in there. So bearing number one done. Next up, we're going to take our tension knob off counterclockwise. I don't think there's a spring in here. I could be wrong. There is. Unbelievable. Now, this kind of annoys me. Same thing on the Casitas. I don't know if you watched that video, but I had a really hard time getting this spring out and getting this bearing out because of it. So let's see. This one came out way easier. That's nice. Bearing number 2 in there, bearing remover. Right out. Very cool. That Casitas was a real problem when it came to that, man. It took me forever. Dry this one off. Get it on our bearing tester. Flip. Now it's probably not even necessary 100% to flip it and put oil on both sides because it's going to leak through, but I just kind of do it anyway, man. Especially the first time. Give them a good drink, you know what I'm saying? Alright, well, technically I don't even have to put this bearing back in yet, but I'm gonna, just so it's out of my way. And, you know, maybe I'll throw that spring right back in here too. I think this cover should be able to come off regardless. Basically, you're just pushing in and kind of turning. It's a little bit of a pain. Maybe I don't want to put it in yet. I'll waste too much time on it. There it was. It kind of snapped in nice. This is still out a little bit. It's very hard to get those to sit in properly, I must say. Yeah, it's very hard. I don't want to scratch this too much. I mean, that's in there, but there's always just this little lip that still sits out of that, and I never really know how to get that back in perfect. But this time, oh, that was close actually. Come on, baby. A little twist is involved here. All right, that's better. That's definitely in now, boy. Cool. Sorry that took a second, but that thing can be a pain in the butt, so it's tricky, and just have patience with it. Take your time, you know, you don't want to bust it or anything like that, but got a lot of oil all over this now, but that ain't gonna hurt nothing. All right, so let's get this cover off. 1, 2, 3 screws on the front, 1 on the back, just like the Casitas. Just like the Casitas. Flathead. Good lock up. Make sure you got good lock up, good pressure. You don't want to strip these things. Yeah, you can kind of feel the body of this reel is very similar to the Bass 1 XT and the Casitas in that it's not an aluminum frame. So, you know, that's a downside. A lot of people won't get a reel that's not an aluminum frame, but you know, it's just because they feel like it can twist up on you, you know, under pressure over time, kind of deform, but I haven't really had any problems with them. And certain reels like the Casitas, you know, it has such a light spool and it bombs so far that, you know, it's worth it, you know. So I'm just going to put these in the order of which I found them. But yeah, having the aluminum frame is sweet, but you know, not a complete deal breaker for me. Some of these cheap reels are really cool, man. I love that Bass 1 XT, and And this thing feels like it's gonna be really fun to play with too. But you can feel it kind of move a little bit on you when it's not an aluminum frame. You just gotta kind of deal with that. I mean, this thing's 89 bucks, so. All right, this one's down lower. And then we got one more on the back here. Yeah, you know, I'm real matchy with my stuff. So if I got a black and red rod, it kind of drives me a little nuts to throw a black and blue SLX on there. All right, once you break these loose, you are kind of better off switching to the Phillips head, but breaking them loose is definitely better to start with the flat. But just that fast spin off, that's where you, wow, that came off super fast, jeez. That's where you want that Phillips head to shine. All right, and then so this one we'll just put top right so we know it's on the back. And away we go. Same story as most of them. Got the roller clutch inner tube here that we're just gonna pull out if it wants to come out. Slippery little sucker. There she is. We're just gonna clean up any grease that's around that one-way bearing. I say it every time, but that's a friction-driven device, and you don't want to oil that or grease it like you do other parts or bearings. They really pack it on because, like I said earlier, they don't want stuff drying up on the shelves. All right, I'm cleaning out any other leftover grease that may be in there. And then I'm just gonna give out a little wipe out. There's oil all over that thing, boy. On this roller clutch inner tube. Place that back down. Now we're down to the inner workings. I'm gonna just keep sliding this over and over and over. All right, so springs, always take them off first so you don't lose them. Main gear, just gonna pull straight up. Whole inner workings fell off, so now you're gonna have the cog and the first drag washer down in there. Voila. Under this, you're gonna have your other drag washer. A lot of grease in there, buddy. Ooh, old school drag washer, all right. Just gonna dry this off. You got kind of a dome shape to this, and the dome side always faces down to put pressure on that drag washer. Now you'll notice, like I said, old school drag washer, you'll notice that the main drag washer here is more of a, I don't even know what material that is, but this one is more of a carbon fiber. You can see it's black. This one's almost like a cloth type of material. It's what they used to use all the time. All right, so we're gonna pull that out of here. I know what that's made out of and I can't think of it, and it's starting to drive me nuts. But yeah, it's just a softer material. Cleaning out anything in here. Drying off the main gear, which is fairly dry. There's really not much grease or anything in the teeth of this at all. And we're gonna dry off our drag washers and our little cog here. This had some drag grease on it. You can feel it sticking. So they hooked it up a little bit. This side has a flat side and a round side. The flat side always faces up on that. Now, if you want to get cute, you can always upgrade this drag washer to carbon fiber and get a little more muscle out of it. if you like, but these old school drags, they get it done too. They just kind of wear out on you a little faster, and they might not have as strong of a max drag as the carbon fibers. A little more crap in there, I just want to get cool. All right, we're going to pull out our cow's drag grease here. We're going to hook up these washers. And like I say all the time, you just want a tiny little bit. If you don't put any, you get max drag. And if you put too much, your drag's going to slip. So you just want a little bit here. You want it to soak it up like a sponge. And you don't want anything too messy. You just want to coat them so that they don't dry rot on you, and you know, they just kind of hang around a little longer than they normally would if they were bone dry. But you definitely don't want to overdo it. Let it soak it up, wipe off the excess. Definitely want to leave a little on there, but you don't want it sloppy. Okay, all good. Place that back in there. Set it down. You're gonna hit this one. And it's just very little, just a little shiny coating on there. Like I said, you don't want to glob it on. Any excess, just wipe off your fingers. Keep moving. And that's about right. Alrighty. Moving on. The inner workings here have a little bit of factory grease on them. I'm going to pull some of it off. It's not too bad. But let me pull this pinion gear and yoke out. You're just going to grab it and pull straight up. Yoke and pinion gear. And just hit that main bearing down here. Just wipe that out real fast. Any sloppiness, I'm just kind of taking off here. But they did a pretty good job in the factory of just kind of, you know, and this kind of proves right here of what I usually do. As you can tell, I don't know if you're going to be able to see the shininess, but where I always say to put grease, they got it on there. They got it on this arm, they got it on the spring, they got it on this little chute here. They got some on these little wheels. You know, it's pretty much exactly how I would do it. So really, I really don't have to add much to this. I mean, they've pretty much done it for me. But if this was, you know, old and I cleaned everything out or whatever, and I still can do it a little bit. That's why I'm kind of wiping it up, just to add a tiny little bit of my own, but I don't have to. But yeah, if I was just doing it myself, that's exactly what I do. I would just take, I'll just do a little because I'm gonna need this grease anyway. Take some of my pen reel grease here, linked in the description as well, as always. And I would just hit those exact same spots right here on this little arm, spring, real smooth too, you know, nothing crazy. Don't really need too much up there. You can drop oil all under this as well, but I just go with a little grease right in this slot here where the chute moves back and forth. Tiny little bit on these two gears, and I just run it right in between them so it shares it. That way you don't have to do them individually. You just kind of hit right where they meet. Makes life way easier. And that's it, man. And also, you know, on a lot of reels that I have, there's another bearing that sits under this shaft here. And so I would take this oil needle, instead of taking the whole reel apart, and just shove it underneath there, squeeze some in there and let it drip down. But I don't think that this one has a bearing down there. This is just a 3 bearing reel, and we've pretty much seen them all. 1, 2, and then your main bearing right there. So, but the nicer reels, the more expensive reels, they're gonna have another bearing under there. So that's how I would go about oiling it if I didn't want to take it completely apart. And speaking of not wanting to take it completely apart, the only time you want to mess with these 2 screws right here is when you're trying to replace that main bearing. Don't even mess with that unless this bearing is in trouble. and you got to replace it, because this whole thing can come off. Once those 2 screws go, this whole thing comes off. This plate, the spring pops out, everything just starts to go flying. So if you ever attempt that, just, you know, be mindful and aware that those 2 screws is what keeps all that in place. One more wipe up on this main bearing just to make sure there's no grease in it. And then we're going to drop some oil in. And we're not putting it down the middle, obviously. We're just putting it right off to the side, right where that bearing sticks out from the other metal. And we're just putting it, that's our main bearing, so I'm loading this one up a little bit. And then we're just going to take our tester, spin some of that in. Alrighty. Alright, moving along. Next up, we are going to just wipe off this yoke right here. I say it every time, but you know, you want to make sure that this yoke is not upside down. It's kind of easy to tell a couple different ways. There's more of an indentation on the underside of it than there is on the top side. And the other way you can tell is these ramps right here. There's one there, you can see. And there's another one over here. And these things match up to it perfect. You'll notice that they just match up to those ramps perfectly. And if it's upside down, they're going to be opposite. It's not going to fly. Nothing really on this pinion gear to worry about. Brand new. Still glance at it anyway, but all good. Let's grease up these gears and keep on moving. So I guess we will, you know what, before I even grease up the gear, I will throw this cog back on for you. Take the drag washer off just so you can see how it's supposed to sit in there. Flat side facing up, rounded side facing down. A little bit of dust on there. So square down on the bottom here. So it's keyed, and so you can't just, well, that was lucky. Jeez, that fell on absolutely perfectly. But the majority of the time when you go to throw it on, it's just gonna sit like that. So you just want to make sure that you kind of rotate it so the square falls into the square pattern. Where are you? There it is. You got to have that thing sitting all the way down, or else your button is not going to work. This thing's not going to slide over and catch this, and you might have problems. You want to see? Okay, button's down. And when you go to crank, it's got to catch that. And if that ain't sitting all the way down, it's not going to catch it. And the reel's not going to work. So just make sure that that key is squared all the way in. All right, that's out of the way. Now we are going to grease up this main gear. I'm going to throw this dome shape right back over this main gear so it sits down. Dome, top of the dome. Puts pressure on that washer. And then I'm just going to keep my thumb over it so it doesn't fall apart while I grease it up. Now we're just going to take a little decent amount of grease and we're going to tap it in to the teeth on this main gear. You don't want to get it all over the top, you don't want to get it all over the bottom, you just got to hit these teeth. So we're just going to, instead of painting the whole thing, we're just going to tap. You don't have to hit every inch of it either. 75% maybe, because if you have too much, it's going to get a little messy on you when it starts sharing it with the pinion gear, when it meets up with that gear. So we're just tapping it on here, and it can be sloppy when you're tapping it on. It can kind of be sticking up like that, and then you just want to take your finger and sit it down into all those teeth, just like that. I'm going to rotate it a little bit, just on the other side there, same drill, tap, tap, tap. Kind of just sticking it on. A lot of traffic out there right now, you hear that? Tap, 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 tap. Slide your finger across. Sit it down into those teeth. Keeping the top and the bottom as clean as you can. Cool. So now we got probably like 50%, maybe 60% of this thing done. And you know, that's pretty good, because once it starts spinning later, it's gonna share it. I may just hit like the tiniest little bit more right here. And you can paint it in like that if you want, but it's just way easier to just glop it on and just run your finger across. Very cool. Alrighty, so we're gonna sit this gear down. Oops. And the top of that dome piece is keyed as well with the shape of this shaft, so you just want to line that up. Oh, actually, you know what? We need to put our pinion gear in first, that way it just meets up nice. So take the pinion gear, same drill but even easier. Excuse me. You just want to hit these top teeth right here. Just give them a tiny little painting. Not much at all, because it's gonna share it. That's it. Less is more. Actually, gonna hit these little rods right here real fast before I put this yoke back on. And remember, this thing's gotta be right side up. Oop, just dumped it. It's real easy to tell once you get used to it, but slide that pinion gear right back into that yoke. And I'm just gonna add just a tiny little coating of grease on that, just so it helps slide it back and forth. All right, so now we're gonna just slide this right over these two rods here, let that sit. Just make sure the pinion gear is lined up with that hole, and then it'll just tap right in for you. Now we can install the main gear, and we just, you know, just be mindful that you're going to be pushing up next to this pinion gear, so you don't want to slam it in. You just want to go real easy. Just kind of shimmy it around and just let it sit right next to that pinion gear, and just let it work its way in. And then, as I mentioned earlier, all that grease is going to share between this gear and the pinion gear, and you'll see it start to build up behind the pinion gear as we rotate it, and it starts to share it. So if you have too much, when you put it on that main gear, it's going to start building up right behind that pinion gear the more you turn it and turn it and turn it. So it looks like I've put a pretty darn perfect amount on there. If I put way too much on, you'd see like a donut shape right behind this pinion gear, and in which case I would just take the brush and just wipe that off real fast. And it's starting to build a little bit, but that's a pretty good healthy amount right there. All right, we're cool, man. This thing looks great. Everything's going nice and smooth, knock on wood. I don't have any wood anywhere. There she is. All right. Take a little quick look around. What do you got to do? Don't put the cover right back on. Always check to see what's going on. What'd you forget? Springs and this little piece here, the roller clutch inner tube. So always take that second to look around. We're going to throw our springs back on. Slide them right on those posts. 1 and 2, and since we already put a little bit of grease on there, that's all ready to go. Roller clutch inner tube is keyed as well. A little dust on there. And it's forked. And those forks got to fit into those 2 holes on the dome piece of the gear. So you can't just lay it on just like that other part. You got to make sure you twist it perfectly so those teeth go right into those holes and it sits all the way down, or the reel's just not going to work for you, man. Oh no, look at this. I bumped this. While I was working, I bumped it. and the little spring and the pin fell out of that hole. How about that? Dangerous, dude. Really protect this thing. Really, really protect this thing. This is going to be interesting. Glad I caught that, man. That could have been gone. So, spring goes in there. And it's like you probably can't even see this. It's so small. It's insane how small this is. Oop, there it is, gone. Never to be seen again. That's how easy it is right there, dude. And I got lucky. It fell right in that little area of the mat. Unbelievable, dude. That is just scary stuff. If that thing would have fell off and hit the floor, there is no friggin' way I would have, I mean, it's possible, I guess, but it would have took me days to find that. Days, even weeks, if ever. So be mindful of that little thing, man. And when you're working, just, you know, that's pretty much my fault. I had this little piece here, which, by the way, all the round circles on that is what faces down, so it catches that and clicks. But always keep that thing on there, man, and just be mindful of it. Whew, that was luck right there. Okay, so we're all good. Let's get this cover back on. Springs are in, roller clutch inner tube is in, everything's greased and oiled up. We're good. Slide this cover back on and just gently, don't force her, just slide it right on there. Good. Make sure it locks up. You'll feel those springs kind of hit you, and then you just kind of keep a little pressure on there, and we're just going to start rolling in these screws one at a time here. And we'll start with the one on the back, which was placed on the top right. Jeez, that was dangerous, man. Gotta be so careful with these little parts, dude. They ain't easy to replace either. A lot of times they're sold out. Tight is tight. And yeah, just always be mindful. All right, next up, now we got everything in the exact order you can see. And we'll just put them on the way we took them off. You don't want to strip these things, so just be gentle. There's a little gap here in the frame, so you just want to squeeze down, make sure it's all good before you go tightening things up. I don't like the fit of this Phillips head for tightening all the way, so I'm going to go back to the flathead. Last thing you want to do is strip these screws, man. I've done it. They're a pain to replace. Not always, but you'd be surprised. Some of them are sold out a lot. Yeah, that flathead just makes life way easier as far as breaking them loose or really tightening them down. Come on. My big hands. All the while making sure that frame has no gaps in it. Put pressure down on it. And tight is tight, dude. You know, I say it all the time. You don't want to muscle up on these things. Just get it to where, man, these are deep in there actually. Get it in there to where it's just good enough. Don't muscle it. This is a longer screw, by the way. This last one that sat on the top. Just in case you did lose your place and you didn't put them down in the order you found them. This one seems to be the long one. Tight is tight, baby. All right, man. Not bad, huh? We're kind of cruising today. I like it. Cruising. I'm just gonna close up my grease here because I'm done with that. I'm still gonna need a little bit of oil. All right, so what do we gotta do here now? We can technically put the spool back in, I suppose. Duh, I said I didn't need any more grease, but I kind of do. I'm just gonna wipe a little something right here. There's still some left on the brush, so all good. Spool back in. There is nothing. What's the braking situation like on here? Came 3 on, 3 off from the factory. All right, I'll leave that on there like that. I'll probably go down to 2 brakes, but it's always good to start. Better safe than sorry with a new reel. Let's get this door back on. Just gonna line it up until it sits in there, and then you're gonna just twist counterclockwise, lock her on up. All right, spools back in. Let's get this handle back on. First and foremost, you got your 2 little tension springs. We're just gonna make sure that, come on man, this thing is flopping all over. We're just gonna make sure that they're in the right order, and you want them back to back, just to give you a little spring action. So that's what we're gonna do. Works for me. Shimmy those back on. Then you got your nut with that other little washer in there, with the copper side will be facing up when you look at it, but when you are looking at it, but you want the copper side to be pointing down once you start screwing it on. So we're just going to flip this on over, and we're going to screw that on counterclockwise. This washer is actually getting stuck, so maybe we'll shimmy that on first. Copper side facing down, and then we will take our nut. Now you'll notice here also that the nut has a big indentation on one side and is flat on the other side. You want that flat side to face down so that big indentation is up to fit the spring in. Okay, so flat side down. We're just going to slowly start to screw that in if it wants to. Here we go. And it's counterclockwise once again. And you don't have to tighten this thing all the way down with a wrench or anything like that. I know it's appealing to do so because it looks like it's square and, you know, needs a wrench, but you don't have to do that. You just can kind of hold your spool and just snug it with your hand, and good enough. Next up is the spring, which seems to be pretty slippery. I don't really know if it matters which side is up, but there's more of a tight coil on the bottom, so I'm going to throw that down on the bottom. Okay, my hands are a little ridiculously slippery right now, so wipe those off. Next up, we got the drag star. Actually, let's get this tension knob on, because once we get the drag star on, it's going to be a pain in the butt. That spring's in there all good. We're just going to press down, a little pressure here. And this cap is plastic also, so just be mindful of that. And you're going to need a little pressure with that spring to get it going, and then you're just going to tighten it down clockwise. You don't have to go nuts, just get it down on there. Drag star with that insane little spring inside. Keyed. So we're just going to kind of turn it and match it up to where it looks like here. And keep your finger on top of that, man, because you don't want to launch that thing off. And we're just going to push straight down. Try to line up that square inside. You'll feel it. And once it's lined up, it'll sit all the way down for you. And we're just going to get our handle on. Keeping pressure. It's got a big spring in there, remember. And then once you get your handle on, you're just gonna kind of grab it like you would a baseball. Just kind of spreading the weight out, throwing a four-seamer, you know what I'm saying? The nut, it's gonna tighten down to the left, counterclockwise. Get that started. Snug it up. And then before I tighten it down all the way, just going to make sure that drag works. Got my tension knob a little tight. Alright, should be cool. Everything seems to be working. Button works, everything works. And now we can tighten this nut up. And as usual, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points to these nuts, and I always like to point one at the little hole there for the screw for the cap. That's usually what helps you figure out how to get that cap on. It's not an exact science, but it helps. And it's fairly close. Might need a little bit more. Because these caps, man, they gotta fit on there perfect. Because there's that same nut pattern on the inside of them. Okay. I think I'm a little over tightened. Real gentle, man. Gentle but forceful. Still ain't right. God, this part is such a pain sometimes. I don't like my grip on that. Come on. Still no go? Are you serious? See, look, you'll see that big gap in there, you know what I'm saying? And you gotta get that thing to sit flush. I wonder if I needed to go even tighter with this thing. I'm gonna back it off a little bit more though. There it is. All right, so now no gap, sitting flush on the handle, and you're good to go, and you're ready to put that screw back in. Get in there. Come on. Jeez, this thing's a little bit of a pain in the butt. Let's try to keep it straight up. I may need the Phillips head to get it started. Oh, this one's a pain. This one's a pain. Need the hands of a surgeon. We got it now. All right, tight is tight. And we are just about done. I'm gonna oil this worm gear up here real fast. I'm gonna center it. Put a drop on one side, well, maybe a little more than a drop. Just kind of hit that worm gear. And then don't crank it full speed, but just slowly start to work that in, or else the oil will go flying all over the place. It's real gentle. Tighten up that drag. Yeah. And you can just straight up feel it getting smoother. Every second that goes by, every crank that goes around, you feel it getting smoother and smoother. All that grease we did, all the oil, everything is just working its way in, man. This thing's just getting crisp and smooth. Yes, sir. All right, and last but not least, I like to drop one little drop of oil on each little entrance of these knobs here. One little drop there. One little drop there. Use gravity, just point it down and just kind of work those knobs a little bit. The good ones have bearings behind them, the more expensive reels. This one does not, and you can totally see the difference, how they're not just cranking around like some of the other reels. But regardless, even though there's no bearing in there, I still like to put a little bit of oil. All right, dude. I think we are done. And so this thing, like I said, brand new. I'm probably gonna take it over to the couch, watch some TV with it, and just work it in. Play with that button. See what this free spool looks like. All right, got my tension knob a little tight, I'll tell you that much. Yeah, not bad. I mean, you got 3 bearings in here, so it's not going to run for days and days, but it's definitely brand new and needs some breaking in for sure. So yeah, just work all that in, dude, and it's just going to get better and better and better. And that feels good. Got that button. Yeah, very nice. We're good. All right, well that pretty much does it, boys and girls. That is the Shimano Caius 151 HG. Ripping it apart, putting it back together, tuning it up, you know, real maintenance, just getting it all nice and ready for battle. Thing feels good, man. It's getting smoother and smoother the more I play with it. Definitely gonna take it on over to the couch, watch some TV, and just kind of, you know, work all that grease and oil in, play with this button a little bit, just kind of work it in. You know, brand new reels, they take time to totally break in for sure. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have this exact reel, I hope it helped you out. I'm not mad at this thing, dude. I'll tell you, that matte black with the red and the oversized handle and those Corrado knobs on there, this thing feels really good in your hand. I mean, these knobs are some of the most comfortable knobs on the market, and to throw them on a $89 reel like this, I think is just really, really sweet. I am not mad at it. I can't wait to use it. It's just getting smoother and smoother, dude. So cool. All right, well, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a like, and if you're into this sort of thing, don't forget to hit subscribe. We put a new video out every single week. And don't forget to check out the Shimano Reels playlist we got up on the channel now. We got a lot more reels up that I take apart, and yeah, you might find another one that you're looking to take apart, and that might help you out too. I'm adding to that playlist as much as I can. I love taking these things apart. I'm obsessed with these reels, and I got a good collection going. So yeah, man, hope they help you out, and definitely let me know in the comments, you know, if you enjoy these things. I love hearing from you guys. It makes me feel good to know that, you know, doing a video like this helps somebody out. You know, it's really cool. It's why I do it, and I really enjoy taking these things apart. So thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Later. This one's coming over to the couch, baby. Gotta break her in. Gotta break her in. Feels damn good already, though, I'll tell you. I ain't mad at this thing, dude. Yes, sir. Shimano Caius, 89 bucks. Damn, I love Shimano. So sick. If you want to see more videos just like this one, be sure to check out the rest of the Where We Wild YouTube channel, where we post a brand new video every week. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you get notified whenever we post a new adventure. Thanks for watching. See ya.